Hi, my name is Joe, and this is a walkthrough of the installation of Zorin OS 7 Core 64. So, the Core edition of Zorin is basically the free version, the one that you don't have to pay for. They have another one that has more bells and whistles, and they ask for a little bit of money for it, but I wanted to try out the free version just to see what it is that we get, well, for free. Zorin is a Linux distribution which is based specifically off of Ubuntu 13.04, running the Linux kernel 3.08. All right, this may not really mean anything to the Windows crowd, and here we are. As you can see, if you're a longtime Windows user, and I have been myself, this all looks pretty familiar. I mean, now I'm running this here in a virtual machine so that we can try it out and be able to record the video. But you could just take this on a USB or burn it to a DVD and boot it off of a computer. And the nice thing about Zorin OS 7 is it specifically has support for UEFI, the secure boot hardware that is now found in, unfortunately, all the computers that are coming pre-installed with Windows 8. You know, Microsoft loves to tout, oh, well, secure boot will help you by making your computer safer because it only will boot your OS if it's digitally signed. Well, Windows needs that because it allows programs to run wild and do all kinds of bad things with administrative rights. Linux doesn't have that issue, but by limiting the computers to secure boot only, and never mind the Microsoft propaganda that says, oh yeah, anybody who wants to can turn it off and run any OS they want, but shucky darn, for some amazingly coincidental reason, the hardware manufacturers were disabling the ability to turn UEFI off. I wonder who persuaded them to do that, so that if you didn't have support for it, you couldn't run it. So a lot of people who wanted to just buy a new computer and wipe out the OS and put Linux on there, which, I find myself doing these days, were stymied by the fact that UEFI was a requirement. Well, the Linux community doesn't take kindly to people putting up roadblocks to the philosophy of Linux everywhere, so they now have support for it, and this runs just fine. Instead of a start menu for Windows users, we have the Z menu because, well, it's Zorin. So here, we'll go ahead and we'll click on it. Come on, Zorin. It's a live CD, so it's a little bit more sluggish. Yeah, we have our own built-in Office package. We can get software off of the internet. For anyone who's used Microsoft Office quite a bit, this will be very familiar. This LibreOffice, it reminds me a lot of the old Microsoft Office before the ribbon. I mean, if you remember all those little Alt-F, Alt-E, Alt-V, all those commands still apply here, and everything works. It's a great Office package, and it doesn't cost a dime. So you can sit here, write reports and whatever for school or for home stuff. And these can even be read by people who are still using Microsoft Office. But it doesn't come with the Microsoft Office price. And in addition, to the ability to make things like Microsoft Word documents, this is their version of a spreadsheet program. You can use many of the same formulas. All the stuff works, presentations, and all the good stuff. Now, of course, this video was about how to install Zorin, so here, let's go through that procedure. As you can see, we have a nice desktop, so it wasn't a complicated install. So if you've ever heard people who said, oh, that Linux is complicated, you'll never figure out how to get that running. Like I said, those days are gone. This is a mature operating system that's easy to use, and like I said, it doesn't cost anything, which is great. So here, I'll just pick English because that's the language that I will be using, but there are plenty of others. It's pretty easy. It just says you just have to have a little bit of space. As you can see, these requirements are pretty low. So if you've got an old computer that's sitting in the closet and is not doing anything, because I've seen many people that their Windows installation simply became corrupt over time because that's just what Windows does. It has bit rot and dies. There's nothing physically wrong with the computer. It's just corrupt and it doesn't boot anymore. Oh, whoops. Here's Zorin's pushing their backup. I'll say no. You can put Zorin on there and bring an old machine back to life. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and erase the entire disk because there's nothing on this virtual machine that I want to keep. But even if this was a Windows 8 computer, I'd probably still erase the disk because I don't use Windows 8. I think Microsoft went insane when they created that thing. abandoning the interface that everybody had come to know and use for 20 years and decide, well, we're just going to make it different, and you're just going to have to learn it. And, well, now people are not buying it. They're stuck with all those Surface tablets. They absolutely deserve it for that stunt. Okay, now when you install the system, of course, you're going to be asked for a name. You can put any name you want. I'll put mine, Joe. And I'll let the computer just name it, Joe's VirtualBox. Here, I'll pick a little password. I'll just make mine nice and simple. You probably want to choose one that's a little bit more complicated. This is the password. Oh, and as you can see, it even tells me fair password. You know what? Here, I'll pick a better one, just to be a good example. This is more like the passwords that I normally pick. As you can see, there's a few keystrokes in there. By default, it'll require a password at login. That way, if someone turns on the computer, they can't just start using it. They have to have that password in order to do anything. And it's especially handy in a household where multiple people share the same computer. That way you can have your own desktops, your own folders, and store all your stuff separate and apart from one another. And one person's changes don't override the others unless they happen to be the administrator. Oh, and never share your admin password, no matter how much the other people in your house ask for it. Here's Zorin wants to welcome us. Happy video. Recognition of the fact that this is an internationally distributed distribution will say hello and welcome. It doesn't really do anything. It's just welcome to the world of Zorin. Doesn't it sound like a Superman villain, you know? There was Zod, now there is Zorin. Kneel before Zorin. Well, I'm sure Microsoft is not pleased. Steve Ballmer has referred to Linux as a cancer. Yep, sorry Steve, it's spreading across the world. After I got a hold of Linux, and you have only yourself to blame, you know, I looked at Windows 8. After 3 minutes, all I could think of was, how do I turn off Metro? And then when I found out by design, you can't, I thought, you know what, Windows 7 was the last Windows operating system for me. It's time to move on. But I wanted to find something that was similar to what I'd been used to. I mean, this is bad. You know, take a look at this. I mean, Linux looks more like Windows than Windows does. Microsoft, hopefully in Windows 9, you'll bring back the original desktop interface. Otherwise, you're basically just, you know, killing the golden goose, you know. Couldn't wait for the eggs, you know, and you had to do that. All right, so Zorin's installed. You saw how quick this was. I just click go, answer a few questions, boom, it's ready to go. In another video, I'll demonstrate how to set up Linux on a USB drive so that you'll be able to stick it into a computer and boot off of it and do these installations. For now, this video does assume that you figured out how to get your ISO in there. Okay, so here we are booting Zorin now that we have Zorin installed. As you saw, it was a pretty quick installation on a modern computer. It takes just a second here. There are other modes that you can boot into, just like with Windows, as they have save mode and whatever. And instead of the Windows icon, at the start of Windows 7 or 8, you have the big pulsing Z, since we're Z for Zorin. And here we go. Here's the Zorin login. Remember, I chose a nice long password for myself. It's important to remember that. Since this is the first time I've logged in, I'm logging in with an administrator account because there are no other accounts on the computer. But if you're planning on sharing this computer that you're setting up with somebody else, you'll probably want to establish an account just for them. That way all their cookies, their web browser, their favorites, any stuff that they change on their desktop is specific to them and doesn't affect you. In fact, here, I'll show you how to do that right now. Here's the Z menu again. So, come on, Zorin. There we go. Whoops. I think I need a new mouse anyways. My buttons have been giving me trouble. So, it's a Z, System Settings, and see, it gives you nice little helpful icons, so, anybody should be able to infer what it is that these things are for. User accounts are exactly what they seem. Notice that there's nothing cryptic here. Like I said, Linux has a bit of a bad rap for, you know, supposedly being difficult, Zorin takes away a lot of those issues, especially for people who are new to Linux. Here we have to unlock the user accounts because we're only viewing it, and so again it prompts us for that administrator password. Even though I'm logged in as administrator, whenever I'm doing what's called an administrative action, it's going to prompt me for that password just to make sure it's still me, you know, in case you walk away from your computer and leave it on. So plus to add, minus to take away. Well, we're going to add, and I'll go ahead and we'll just call this person Bob. Nothing special. Now by default, Bob can't do anything. Notice by default his account is disabled. That's because we need to pick some information for Bob. So say for example, say like Bob is a kid, and we really don't care about passwords because Bob is a regular user. He's not going to have administrative rights. So I'll allow him to log in without a password. So I'll say change. And as you can see, it says standard account versus administrator. So one can control the computer, one can simply use it. And here we'll establish another one. Say for example, we'd like to have another standard user. We'll call her Cindy. Whoops, I gotta spell it right. But Cindy might have something that she doesn't want to share. So for her account, we'll go ahead and log in. We'll set a password. And of course, she'll have to know what the password is when you set the account up. So now we have Cindy and Bob. One requires a password to log in, the other one does not. So it's that easy to set up new accounts. So we just close the window. As you can see, this looks very Windowish. Shame on Microsoft that Linux looks more like Windows than Windows 8 does. You know, Windows 8 is just an obscenity. I don't have any nice things to say. Sorry. All right, you may be thinking to yourself, all right, we've got this nice desktop and everything looks familiar and it looks really easy, but what about software? And that's a valid question, you know. All right, I've got this great desktop, I can, you know, write some papers, I can browse the web. What if I want to do something else? Well, the nice thing about Linux is that they have this, and Zorin in particular, is this nice little software center set up. And as you can see, we have lots of programs that are free. Some are available for a nominal fee, just like you'd find in any other online store. The difference is that in something like the Windows Store or the Mac Store, well, Apple Store, whatever they call it, the ratio of free to pay is going to be very different. Here in the Linux world, a lot of stuff is free because free. There's a few for money, but here let's take a look at a free game just as an example. You know, if you're dealing with kids and you set up a Linux machine at home, the first thing is going to be like, groan, why are you doing this to us? But as soon as you show them this is the easiest way to get kids on your side, especially when you're making a transition games. Notice as you go down the list here, there's nothing listed here. And the reason is ta-da, those are all free games. Let's see. Oh, whoops. None of these games are pay. Okay, well, see, normally there would be a price here if it was something that cost money. So here, I'll just click on one, the very first one, SuperTux 2, and I'll just say install. Oh, again, because it's an administrative function, I'm prompted for that password. And here it comes. So SuperTux is being downloaded over the web and installing itself, and ta-da, SuperTux is here. Now notice I didn't have to do anything special. I clicked it and said give it to me, and down it comes. So now when I go here on my games menu, SuperTux is now available. So let's fire it up and see if it works. Ooh, that's a little loud. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'll say start a game, and welcome to Antarctica. Kids will love this. Da-da-da. Hey, SuperTux. As you can see, I was able to just pick a game. I didn't pay a dime for this and have it downloaded here in just a few minutes. If you can't tell, this is a Super Mario Brothers clone. The only difference is instead of plumbers, we have penguins. And that's true of a lot of Linux video games, is that there'll be clones of something very familiar, and it'll just be penguins. Okay, well, we'll leave Super Text alone. I can always play that later. And quit world, and there we go. So as you can see, it's really that easy to just pick something from the Software Center, basically whatever you want, whatever you can think of, and download it. I mean, there are lots of educational tools, there are lots of development tools. For example, let's see, I'm sure it's in here. There's one in particular that I like. Let's see. I'm looking for a program called Bluefish, which I use for web development. And let's see. Oh, look at that. It's probably got the highest rating here, not surprisingly. Oh, see, this is where I told you the prices pop in. There are other programs, and they're available for free. Well, good for them. I'll take the free one. I'm cheap. Again, we're prompted for that administrative password, and down it comes. So I can see my little progress meter if I'm curious to see what's going on. It shows me everything's coming down. It's applying my changes. And see, I've got a little, all the little categories here. Oh, see, a new one just popped in. Programming. Because this is the first programming related application. They like to categorize things to make it easy for us. So as you saw, the menu updated while I was looking at it, and so now we have our Bluefish editor. And presto. So anybody who does web development, who's looking for a nice web editor, Bluefish is available for free. And in fact, I have an entire series on HTML development that uses Bluefish. And here, I'll put a link for you here on the screen. So if you'd like, you can learn HTML from me. All right, so that's Zorin in a nutshell. It's a free Linux distribution that's very similar in terms of look and feel to Windows 7. However, it can look like others too. If you're curious, let's see, I have to remember where they put it. System tools. Here we go. The Zorin look changer. This is exclusive to Zorin, where, say for example, you've been clinging on to XP for all these years, and you really prefer the Windows XP look. You can choose that one too. Now notice there's only 3 things to pick here because this is the free edition, and so they were going for the things that are most common. But there's a pay edition that adds more, like you can make it look like Mac OS X. I don't know why you would want to, but or Windows, other versions of Windows or other operating systems. So now the little Z menu has changed, and it looks more Windows XP-ish in terms of the layout and how the icons are set up and rearranged, so that people who are familiar with Windows XP will be comfortable with that. Oh, and then the last little bit here is, remember we were looking at different accounts. So now that we've added more accounts, they're available here to be selected. So here we'll just go to Bob, and remember Bob has no password. So I'll just say, Bob, you know what? I want to log in. So you just click the little arrow, and presto, here's Bob's account. Bob can't install anything, but he can make some little simple changes to his desktop, you know. And let's see, what is Bob like? Wait a minute, come on. Is this all the backgrounds this guy gets? Wow, I guess the free version doesn't come with very much. Oh, that's okay. This is actually the first time today that I've used Zorin OS 7, so I wasn't sure what it would come with, but I wanted to look so I could see for myself. Here, I'll go ahead and make it the default for him. Oh, by the way, the programs that we installed as administrator are available to the other users. So if Bob goes down here to the Zorin menu and clicks on, notice the little programming tab is here, so he can use Bluefish, and he can also use SuperTux. So the programs that were installed by the administrator are available to all the users of the computer. But if Bob goes in here and says, well, hey, I would love to go into the Software Center and pick something myself. Here, I'll just pick something at random and say, well, I'd like to install that, please. And, hey, I want to install this. And the first thing it says, password for Joe. Well, I don't know what Joe's password is. Here, I'll put some random thing. You were unsuccessful. This is why you don't share your passwords. So as long as you don't share it, then the users can't get in there and cause you any problems. Let's see. I was just thinking this guy needs a nice desktop background. Free desktop backgrounds. Yeah, this is my favorite ability of Google, is click on images and look for things that are free. Oh, you know what? And this one, it looks very appropriate. Looks a little fuzzy. Let's view the original image. There we go. So we'll say save image, saves it to our downloads. And see, we simply go over here to Documents, and what I just downloaded is in Downloads. Here we go, set as wallpaper. So even though it didn't come with a background, I was able to grab one. Whoops, this one's a little fuzzy because it's not the same resolution that I'm looking at. So here, let's see if we can find an even better one. Whoops, images. Here we go. Well, it's not the greatest. I have to find something a little bit better. See, these numbers down here at the bottom show the resolution. I'm currently running at 1024 by 768. So I'm looking for something that is the same resolution that I'm at. Just to make, here we go, 1024 by 768. Oh, and it's a nice one too. So view original image. Sometimes these sites will have all kinds of crud on them. And just gave me the image. I don't want to deal with whatever their website has going on. Oh yeah, Bob gets prompted for the, hey, do you want to back up things? No, that's okay. There we go. Now that we've picked an image that's the same resolution that we happen to be running at, it looks a lot better. And because, as we mentioned, these settings are specific to each user. Whoops, oh, I clicked the wrong button. Let's see, where is that darn thing? Log out. So now we log out. Ta-da! And go back as me. I don't have the background or other settings that Bob chose for himself. So his settings are specific to him. This feature is available on Windows also, although most people don't use it. Usually I see people running with no passwords, and everybody shares, and you know, roommates and friends and family can install whatever they want, and then for some reason the computer gets slow and gets corrupt and infected. So that's Zorin OS 7 in a nutshell. How to install it, how to get it running, and how to get a little bit of productivity with it. And, you know, like I said, for anybody who's able to use a web browser, whoops, here, I'll put mine back to the nice little look of, let's see, where's that darn Zorin? Look changer. I know they have it in here someplace. Now that the stuff has moved around, I have to figure out where it's hidden. Here we go, System Tools. The Zorin Look Changer. I'll put it back to Windows 7. That's the look that I happen to prefer. So now everything's back the way I would expect it, but the look changer can be individual for each user. So if one person prefers XP, if one person prefers, the Mac OS or whatever, keep in mind to get those other looks, you have to pay a little bit of money in order to get the souped up version of Zorin. And it'll come with more software to make it easier, because if you're new to the Linux world, you might say, okay, great, there are thousands of applications out there, I don't know which one I want. The best way is to hit the message boards and see what other people are recommending. All right, have a wonderful day.